Welcome to a new series that I thought of naming as Food for Thought because many of these are instructional in nature. It also looks forward to what could be coming down the pipeline. Some of it is our guesswork, and we just think this is where the world is headed, and that's why it is food for thought. You can think about it, and you need to start tuning into some of these things to understand where the world is headed. As a matter of fact, more and more people are now in Europe talking about centralized bank digital currency or central bank digital currency or CBDC. There is a digital euro being proposed. So I had predicted this a few weeks ago, and that is all coming out to be true. So this is where the world is headed, and I think we've got the pulse right, and I hope you see these videos in the true sense. Today I'm going to talk about what makes India the lone shining star among the whole world, especially in the South Asian region. Now, many of the things that I saw when I was doing the research for this was that India got tarred with the same brush in terms of having communal issues on the same page as Pakistan and Bangladesh, whereas the truth is totally different. So we're going to tell a different story. You may not see this thing in news media, but this is the truth. I extensively travel in India. I talk to a lot of people across the breadth and length of India. I know the pulse of India, and I think I am uniquely qualified to talk about the reality of what is happening on the ground rather than just trying to take a narrative and run with it. For some reason, even for the most conscientious press, lying seems to be second nature now, and which is very unfortunate. Of course, that's one side. The other side, you could say, is okay, that's why people are tuning into YouTube channels and social media channels, because they feel that they can get a better version of truth when they watch these things. So thank you all for watching PGurus channel, and I have a small infographic through which I'm going to explain how I see the growth of India. Is it going to sustain itself here? It's going to grow even faster. I think it's going to probably sustain here or perhaps even grow a little bit faster. At the same time, we need to keep our eyes on the ball to see what are all the headwinds India is facing. So this is the infographic that tells you definitively what are all the different investments coming into India. So remember that investments are all private entities, and they won't invest in India unless they see for themselves that the situation for investment is ripe and bright in India. So that's the whole idea here. Take a look at this infographic. Let me know what you think, but this is the truth. Here we go. The economic engine of India is standing tall as consistently it is positioning itself as the fastest growing economy in the global, not just in the South Asian region. If you look at the growth, India in 2025 is expected to grow at 7.2%, and the global average is going to be 3.2%. In other words, India is growing twice as fast as any other country all over the world. Not only that, there is an interesting thing here. India's economy, if you just take a look at South Asia, India's economy is about 80% of the South Asia's total economic output. It's my guess, this is 2024 numbers. After that, Bangladesh, which was also rising very fast, thanks to Narendra Modi's government's encouragement, has now fallen away because they have thrown away a leader who was giving them good growth and have gone back to Muhammad Yunus, thanks to a certain country which is good at regime changes. We'll come to that in just a moment. If you take a look at why I'm saying India is where the action is, look at the amount of money that has come in by way of foreign direct investment. There are three ways in which money comes into India: foreign direct investment, foreign institutional investors, and foreign portfolio investment. Second and the third I'll cover in just 1 minute, but take a look at it. Since 2000, cumulative foreign direct investment is more than 1 trillion. Even if you assume it's just 1 trillion, over 25 years, it is averaging $40 billion a year. As a matter of fact, it has been going up in the recent past. The numbers are only accurate up to 2024 because we don't have the 2025 numbers since we are still in November. So I will give you the update maybe 3-4 months down the road when we go back and look at the same progress of India. But this means that because India is 80% of the South Asian economy, what are the South Asian countries? Bangladesh, Nepal, India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Afghanistan. These are the 6 countries that I can think of. I may have missed out one or two, but you get the idea. Maybe Bhutan. You get the idea. In all these things, India is the one that is growing the fastest, and it is also getting a remarkable amount of investment. So if you look at the entire South Asian region up until 2024, and in 2025 it is projected to be 6.6%, but I have my doubts if the entire region is going to grow at that level. But India is growing at 7.2%. So why is India a beacon of peace? This is where the world narrative differs from mine. In the world view, India is not as safe as, it's unsafe. And they try to tar India with the same paint brush as many other South Asian nations. In fact, to hide some of the challenges Pakistanis pose in other countries, the other countries tend to talk about South Asians rather than Pakistanis. I'm talking about United Kingdom specifically. I think this malaise is probably beginning to affect Canada also. Be that as it may. So one is foreign direct investment. In foreign direct investment, it is all long-term investment. Like for example, Apple making its phones here through Foxconn, or some of the cell phone manufacturers making the cell phone, because that requires a fair amount of outlay, a fair amount of period over which they are going to get their return on investment, and so on and so forth. Whereas the other two, foreign institutional investors and foreign portfolio investors, they reveal the market sentiment. In other words, how much of a confidence they have in India's stock market. Now, if you take a look at the FII, that is foreign institutional investors, the inflow has been up and down in the sense that it's not in the same number as it used to be. If you take a look at 2009 and 2010, the number was $60 billion. Participatory notes were all the rage because you didn't have to mention the origin or the person, and you could come in, invest in India's capital markets, make the money, not pay capital gains tax, and take out the whole money in whatever form you brought it in. And if you did it through Mauritius, you got zero capital gains tax. Then after that, FIIs again surged during the COVID time to about $38 billion. And then in 2023, in the first 6 months, March to August time frame, the number is around $20 billion. We don't have the numbers for 2024. But if you take a look at what has been happening, remember that 2024 was an election year, and there were attempts made by some deep state players to try and dethrone the Modi government. And how they did that was to try and create a panic in the stock market. You look at the second chart here, what happened was foreign investors took away close to $12 billion. And this is happening even as we speak in the fiscal year 2025. However, the one pleasant surprise is India's domestic institutional investors such as LIC, State Bank, and so on and so forth. They have invested close to $70 billion. See, another way to look at FIIs taking money out of India is to book their profits. There's nothing wrong in that. They might have invested many years ago, so they took the money out to book the profits. So there is this balancing going on. However, the fact that the DIIs, domestic institutional investors, have come in and such a big way in 2025 means that this is one less stick that the deep state has through its FIIs to beat India with. They lose one more lever that they could use to control India. Now let's take a look at the relative peace and prosperity of the South Asian countries. The narrative of peace and prosperity becomes complex when examining political and economic stability. While India is macroeconomically resilient, it shares a regional characteristic of instability, facing its own internal challenges. Other nations in the region face more acute systemic fragility. I see that there is an attempt by the mainstream media across the world to try and look and paint India as being just as unstable as its neighbors like Pakistan and Bangladesh, but nothing could be further from the truth than that. India has a robust judiciary. Some may say it doesn't move fast enough, but you still get your day in court and you can make your case in court. See, the India's story, if you look at it, it has a strong growth momentum, faces issues with youth unemployment and rural distress. See, again, this is something that is always blown out of proportion. India has made a lot of inroads to try and make its rural population get the best out of them. Political stability is India is generally stable, but it persists with political polarization, localized unrest, and regional disparities. Sometimes what happens is, in trying to keep it balanced, I feel global media tends to also say that, oh, India also has its problem, and you'll have that one church, one glass pane being broken by a drunk, and then that becomes world news. And see, this is what they are doing. They are trying to take one piece of news and then blow it up as if the entire Indian country is up in flames. So this is something that the world media is indulging in, and the reason for that is both United States and China don't want to see India grow. Although many FIIs and FPIs and FDI, all these are global corporations incorporated out of United States and perhaps Western Europe, but they all see the value of investing in India, and that's what you should look at rather than what the news narratives that is being peddled by various media. Let's take a look at Bangladesh. Bangladesh had a sustained growth of garment exports up until Sheikh Hasina got overthrown. Since then, things have gone to hell in a handbasket, and right now the political stability is really, really unstable, and this is a selected government, appointed government by powers outside of Bangladesh, and this is going to mean more turbulence before something settles down. Unfortunately, sometimes you need to stand under the sun to understand the benefit of a shade. I think that's what happened under Sheikh Hasina. Bangladesh enjoyed a faster growth than Pakistan for many years running. And now Bangladesh is again falling back. And I think until the people realize that the people that are in power in Bangladesh are fakes and need to be thrown out lock, stock and barrel, this is going to continue. Let's wait and see how this plays out. Sri Lanka was also going to hell in a handbasket until India stepped in and helped them out. They gave a $4 billion loan. They also underwrote guarantee for an IMF loan that has been given to Sri Lanka, and that has stabilized this country. Now the political stability has also come back, and hopefully Sri Lanka has turned the corner, and it could do that only because, like an elder brother, like a big brother, India was ready to give them a helping hand. Pakistan grapples with high inflation, currency devaluation and energy shortages, and it is under IMF bailout, and even the previous bailouts, there are lots of suspicions that the books were cooked, and I am not sure IMF is going to lend out any more loans, although there may be some under pressure from some of the bigger partners. Like, for example, if IMF needs to lend money, I heard that Saudi Arabia gives them money with conditions attached that that money should go to Pakistan. Why this affection for Saudi Arabia towards Pakistan, only Saudi Arabia can explain. Just telling. So right now the political stability is just non-existent. It is being rent as under, and it might be not long before it breaks up into smaller pieces. It is collapsing under its own weight. That's what is the state of Pakistan. Let's take a look at Nepal. Nepal has a heavy reliance on remittances, making it vulnerable to external shock. It also faces unemployment and poverty. Recently, you saw the Gen Z rise up in protest because of Nepo kids, and hopefully stability is going to return to this country, and as always India will be there to help it. Now if you take a look at the entire picture of South Asia, India is unequivocally the primary engine of growth and investment. Also, India is the only place where new companies and established companies continue to invest foreign direct investment, and this is something that has been vanishing from its neighbors like Pakistan, for example, and the same is true of Bangladesh also. They need to get their political systems back on track, and unless that happens, this will continue. I'm afraid this is where the truth is. Let's wait and see how this plays out. My guess is that 7.2% growth that India is supposed to have in 2025 might even be able to beat it. Why? Because they simplified their GST tax structure, and that's going to mean more money in the hands of people, which means more expenditure, more consumption, and hence greater growth. So we have compared all the other countries in the South Asian region, and we know now, since we see where the money from outside of this region is headed, that India is a lone beacon of hope. That's why all other big entities are hoping to make a free trade agreement, and I think this is whoever wins, whoever gets the upper hand, they are going to enjoy prosperity for themselves also. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.